welcome to The Book of Life, a show about Jewish books, music, film, and web. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. Additional support comes from the Association of Jewish Libraries. Ann Redisch Stampler is the author of Sidney Taylor notable picture book, Something for Nothing, and Sidney Taylor honor book, The Remarkable Spoon of Pohost. I bumped into Ann at Book Expo America in 2010 in New York City, where she told me about her newest Jewish picture book, The Rooster Prince of Breslov.
Hi, I'm Ann Stampler, and my new folktale, The Rooster Prince of Breslov, is coming out from Clarion in September. Actually, it's not really a new folktale. It's an old and very funny folktale attributed initially to Nachman of Breslov. I learned the story from my grandmother, who brought it from her little town of Pohost in Eastern Europe, across the Atlantic, through Ellis Island, and then up to the equally tiny town of St. Johnsbury, Vermont. It's kind of a coming-of-age story. In which one morning a prince who has more than he wants or would ever need just cries out enough and rips off his clothes and his shoes and his socks and saying buck, 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 buck and scratching the floor with his toes says that he is a rooster. After a week of this, his parents, who cannot get him to stop going cock-a-doodle-doo, offer a bag of gold to whoever can cure him. They try magicians, they try doctors, they try sorcerers, but ultimately it's a very wise old man, a teacher, who comes up with a way to help the prince to develop brachmunis, to perform mitzvot, and to really become a man in a way that separates men from children and also separates men from beasts. And it puts the prince in touch with his soul. It's a very beautiful but also very funny story. And in this book, it is illustrated brilliantly by Eugene Yelchin, who is Russian and grew up with the folktale, studied at the Leningrad Art Institute, and did, I think, a magnificent job. I mean, more than any picture book writer could hope for. So it's actually, thanks to him, just a beautiful book. And it'll be here in September, and I can't wait.
What I liked so much was that I felt like this version of it finally gave the Rooster Prince deeper meaning, because usually it's just this comic story about, this guy who kind of goes crazy and decides he's a rooster, and you're never sure why. And I felt like not only did this give us a reason for him to act like this, but also that it gave instead of the cure being just, they tricked him, he still thinks he's a rooster, but he's acting like a person and the joke's on him. Instead of that ending, you gave it like this deeper spiritual meaning, and I love that.
Oh, first of all, it's an incredible pleasure to have a reader who gets it on such a deep level. So thank you. I'm standing here really gratified. But I can't take all the credit for that. A lot of the credit goes to my grandmother, who I think made it a real immigrant story, kind of about child rearing and about being in this land of tremendous plenty and how it is that you raise a child to have the spiritual values that this community treasures. Although I do think Nachman of Breslov's very spare version, it is certainly not without spiritual meaning. His central message being that for a teacher to bring a student to spiritual heights, the teacher has to meet the student at any level, however low. So for him, the issue wasn't so much the motivation of the rooster, but kind of a lesson to a teacher for how to relate to someone who is, perhaps, spiritually backward, for want of a better phrase. But no, I do love this version, and I can say that because I'm the reteller. I think with these folk tales, it's a gift. It's like, a baby, and your job is to take very good care of it and not mess it up, and kind of get it ready to go off into the world. And for me, I know I can take care of this babies and I can tell the story, but to put it in a book that is consistent with the oral tradition, that expresses the values, it's hard work, but it's wonderful, and I'm thrilled with the care that Clarion took with this book, and my editor, Dinah Stevenson, who was just absolutely passionate about every word being just right. So I really hope that children will enjoy it and that parents will enjoy it as well. And thank you so much.
Sure. Do you have other folktales in the works?
Actually, I do. A wonderful Afghan Jewish folktale, The Wooden Sword, is going to become a book. I had known the Eastern European version of the folktale, which to my mind was rather mean-spirited. But actually, Natalie Blitt, who is a great lover of Jewish children's literature.
Right, Natalie Blitt from the PJ Library.
Yes, who's a huge advocate of literature and of writers who produce Jewish children's literature. Natalie said it was her favorite folktale, and I thought, And she directed me toward the Afghan and Middle Eastern versions, which are absolutely beautiful. And I did research and learned that there had been an active and thriving Jewish community in Afghanistan for millennia. I mean, Benjamin of Tudela, which I'm probably mispronouncing here, actually commented on those communities. And this is a folktale from a period when the Muslim community and the Jewish communities, which were the primary religious communities in the country, got along very well. And it's a story about testing of faith. It's probably in some sense the most religious book that I've done explicitly, in that the protagonist has a life that is informed in a very concrete way by his faith, which gives him a tremendous amount of joy and actually also produces a tremendous optimism, because he knows that day by day with his faith things will work well. And again, it's a funny story, but it's a story with kind of prayer, and I don't want to call it a trickster's tale, but it has kind of a very clever protagonist who's able to kind of deal with the dictates of his society. At the same time, he is absolutely true to his faith and his beliefs. And I love the story, and I'm thrilled that it's going to be a book. And I will let you know more as soon as there's like something signed and concrete, but I'm very, very thrilled about it. Oh, thank you. Oh, Kinahora and Po. Right. If I had salt here at BEA, I would be sending like shovels full of it over my shoulder. Don't want to jinx this book, but you know what? This book is so beautiful. I truly think, Kinahora, it can make its own way, because it's just, especially the Afghan version that Natalie directed me toward, is so beautiful and compelling that I'm thrilled. Thanks.
Thanks, Ann.
Oh, thank you.
There are so many ways to connect with the Book of Life. Fan us at facebook.com/Book of Life Podcast. Follow us at twitter.com/Book of Life Pod. Email us at bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 561-206-2473. You can also listen to the latest episode by phone at 916-313-3820. And of course, find links to everything at bookoflifepodcast.com. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida, at cbiboca.org, and is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band at freilachmakers.com. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.